Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and today's video is a follow-up to my first live video in which I asked a question. I wanted to do a shell swap on a DS Lite and I didn't know whether to use my red DS Lite or my black DS Lite as a sort of donor system, and the answer to that question is, well, I used the red one. Two very good condition DS Lites. The red one was in mint condition, so I was a little hesitant about using it, but the black one, while it was in good condition, not that the condition of the shell really makes any difference because you're doing a shell swap anyway, but the top LCD on the black one has got some pixel damage. Not a major amount, but I thought if I'm going to be doing a shell swap and putting all that effort into making this look fantastic, then I want to use the best console that I had. So I've used the red one, and here it is. This is my transparent Nintendo DS Lite, which was previously a red one, and I have to say it was a very good experience. It's not the first shell swap I've done, and it's not the first transparent one I've done. I did one about 5 years ago, and this one is much better quality. The shell, they're obviously third-party shells. Nintendo don't sell them like this, and wherever I bought this one from, much better quality than the last one. The previous shell swap I did with a transparent shell, it was very difficult to get the hinges in. The plastics started to crack in places, especially when you were putting the screws in, but not with this at all. It looks absolutely stunning. I do love transparent tech, and everything just went in and fitted together very well. When you slide the top, well, the back of the top screen on, I had issues with that before. It doesn't sort of meet up properly. Didn't have that with this one. The only thing I would say is when you screw the battery in, you don't get that little lock pin on the replacement case, and the screws that they supply are rubbish. But I just reused the screws from the red shell, and it was fantastic. So you get, this is a lovely transparent Nintendo DS Lite. You get a transparent stylus, which is very cool, and even the Game Boy Advance slot is transparent. One thing I will say is that you don't get this board when you buy a replacement shell, so I had to take this out of the red Game Boy Advance cover, and if you don't put one in, it just makes it very sloppy. It doesn't hold in very well, so that looks very cool in there. Not really much else to say. It is a high quality shell. You get everything from the screw covers and the top lid padding. Superb. I don't think there was anything other than the screws that I reused from the red shell. Just a quick tip when you're doing a shell replacement: if you're not intending on replacing the screens, then especially the bottom screen, do not disconnect it. They're very fickle when you take the bottom screens out, especially for the touchscreen. I've put many of these back together and it works fine, but the touchscreen has stopped working, and there's a very small ribbon cable which is just about there, you can see. Possibly, well, that's where it sits anyway, and even if you get it in right, it doesn't always work. So if you're not intending on replacing the bottom screen, then just keep the screen in place. I've used some Captain tape just to hold it down while I was doing the shell replacement, and it's worked fantastically. So that is my Nintendo DS Lite transparent. As you can see, it all works absolutely superbly. And it just looks absolutely amazing. I absolutely love transparent tech. Just that whole ability to be able to see all of the sort of insides and the circuit boards and all the things that I assume game companies and tech companies want to hide up to make them look a bit nicer. The top screen, you can just virtually see all the way through. So you can see, look, you can see just about all the way through it, and I love that fact. So there you go, that is a shell swap on a Nintendo DS Lite to a transparent one. Absolutely amazing. It's not the easiest of things. I've done many shell swaps, so I know the pitfalls and the little things to look for. Things like the microphone cable has to sit flat along here, otherwise it interferes with the top thing there. And you have to just feed the cables where they should be. There's little You can probably see them on here somewhere. One of the speaker cables has to fit in there. There's a little lug for it to sit in. The same on this side. If you're going to do it, look at some guides. I've used iFixit in the past, and they give you precise instructions and tips and just the do's and don'ts of doing it, because it's a very fiddly little job. Everything has to sit where it needs to sit. You have to be very careful with ribbon cables, especially this one. This is probably the worst part of doing a shell swap on a DS Lite, because you've got to roll the cable so tightly to get it through this metal sheath here, and then you've got to feed it through to the back. It's the trickiest part of it. Everything else is fairly straightforward. Just take your time, don't rush anything. It's a small little console, so everything on it is small and fragile, and 9 times out of 10, if something goes wrong, it's because you've torn a ribbon cable somewhere, or even broken one of these connectors here. The one I spoke about earlier, this one up here, it's got a small tiny little black clip on it, and you lift it up and you feed the cable underneath, and then you put it down. Be very, very careful with that. I've seen a lot of people online who have broken theirs. And with any shell swap on a DS, the shoulder buttons are the most awkward piece, because they've got a little metal pole that sits there with a very, very tiny spring, which you can probably, I don't know if you can quite see that, and you've got to sit them the right way around, otherwise they don't work. And getting the shoulder buttons on and then the back case on without the 2 springs spinning out is a little bit tricky, but take your time, do it slowly, and the end results will be absolutely amazing. So that is my DS Lite transparent. I would love to do it to some other consoles. I haven't seen it for an original DS or a DSi, to be fair. There are far more shells for the DS Lite than any other DS that I've seen. If you can find one for something like the DSi XL, let me know. I would love a transparent DSi XL. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.